So I was relaxing in bed, watching the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, just enjoying the fun, casual comedy, when this happened. Wait, what? Wait, what? Did Nebula steal Bucky's arm? Is Bucky going around armless somewhere? Did Nebula kill Bucky? Now I get that this is just a fun payoff from Avengers Infinity War when Rocket vowed to get Bucky's arm.
Oh, I'll get that arm.
But if Rocket has the arm, then Bucky doesn't. So what's happening here? Well, I'm not the type of person that can just let something like this slip by without investigating it fully, so I dove in. I started looking into the situation these characters are currently finding themselves in, and I think I figured out what is actually happening here. Now, the first and most logical conclusion that I could come up with was, what if this is just a past arm? What if Bucky had used that one and he'd moved on to something new? Well, let's take a quick look back at the history of Bucky's arm. So, when he became the Winter Soldier, Hydra gave him a titanium arm, and that lasted him through most of his time to date. He had that titanium arm when he first showed up as the Winter Soldier in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and that arm took a lot of beatings. Just from what we see it get beaten up a lot by Captain America and by others, and Hydra has to do some little repairs. We know that Isaiah Bradley at some point had torn half of it off, as he says in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but apparently it has grown back. And we know that in Captain America Civil War, Iron Man blasts the thing to smithereens, leaving Bucky without an arm. He goes without one for a length of time while he's hiding away in Wakanda, and then they give him a vibranium arm. And as far as we know, that vibranium arm is the one he has from that point forward. Well, if we look at this history, we know he has gone through quite a few arms. So, is it possible that one of those arms is the one that Nebula grabbed and gave to Rocket? Well, no, it's not. We can clearly see from the scene, this is not one of the many titanium arms that he would have gone through. This is a pristine-looking, vibranium-looking arm. This is the modern version that he has. So, no, this is not one of his past arms, since all the past arms seem to have been the titanium. The one that we see here resembles the vibranium. As far as we know, he's only gone through one of those, and that's the one he is currently wearing. So the next option is, could Nebula have found Bucky and beaten him in some way and actually stolen the arm? I mean, we know that the arm can be stolen because we see in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we see the arm get deactivated by the Dora Milaje, and it falls off. So we know that it can be removed. The last time we see Bucky with his arm, or at all, is during Falcon and the Winter Soldier. At that point, the arm is firmly attached, and he has it, but that takes place before this Christmas special. Well, this Christmas special just came out. How can there be anything past that for us to reference? Well, in fact, there is. We already have some promotional material out advertising for the upcoming Thunderbolts, and Bucky's part of that crew. Not only is he part of that crew, but he's front and center in a lot of the promotional pictures, and he's turned to the side showing off his arm. This appears to be the exact same arm that he had, the vibranium one that he got from Wakanda. It appears to still be there with him. Well, if Nebula stole that arm from him, that leaves three options. Either it gets back to him somehow, or he gets a replacement, or she didn't actually steal that arm at all. So we're going to table this one for a moment and look at the next possibility. Well, the third option is, could this just be a replica of Bucky's arm? Well, to answer that, we got to ask the question, would Nebula have some means of accessing a replica? Well, let's take a look at her relationships to date. Now, she didn't have relationships with anyone from Earth up until the time of Infinity War. But at the end of Infinity War and the start of Endgame, during the time of the blip, she travels back to Earth with Iron Man. From the point that she arrives back on Earth with Iron Man, she begins a partnership of sorts with Earth's Avengers and with the Wakandans. We see them taking a look at Earth and the surrounding galaxy and seeing what's happening out there. And when the time of Endgame comes, she helps with every step of that process. She knows about space and helps direct that way. She helps with some of the technology and working on the ships. She helps find Thanos and defeat him, and then find the stones. She's a big part of that whole process and a big reason why we were victorious over Thanos. So she has a relationship at this point with the Avengers and with Wakanda. So could she have gotten a replica? Well, would they have a replica on hand? Pun intended. What we know about Wakanda is their science labs. They're not making just one thing and then destroying the rest. They're experimenting. They're trying things out. They're testing different designs. So the sites that we see of their lab, when we get a pan over of what's going on in that laboratory, we don't just see one Black Panther suit. We see options. We see iterations. We see them testing out designs and trying to come up with what works. It only makes sense that when they develop an arm for Bucky, they do the same thing. They would work through iterations. They would work through testing out designs. So it makes sense that they would have some replicas of the arm from when they were developing that technology, and even lying around to potentially, if they need it again later. So this really is a possibility that Nebula could have flown back to Earth, met with Wakanda and said, hey, could I cash in a favor? Could you give me a replica of Bucky's arm? And as odd of a request as that is, I could see them obliging. They don't even need to part with any of their vibranium. If they had a replica set for just their design work that they made out of some other metal, they could hand that to her to bring back to Rocket. So this is still a possibility. So in the end, we have to ask ourselves, which of these options is right? Well, to me, it comes down to two options. Either Nebula found Bucky and took his arm away from him, or it's a replica. And she either went to Wakanda to get a replica from them, or painstakingly built one herself. We know she's capable. So we have to ask ourselves, is there any way of determining which of these possibilities it actually is? And I believe there is. I believe the scene when Rocket is unwrapping and taking out that gift, it does tell us what we need to know to determine which of these two options actually took place. So what do we know about Bucky's arm? We know that his original titanium arm weighed around 40 pounds. Well, titanium weighs about half the amount as steel. And we know that vibranium is about a third the weight of steel, as told to us by Howard Stark in Captain America: The First Avenger. So some quick math, quick estimation, that vibranium arm would weigh at least 25 pounds. That would be about half the weight of Rocket Raccoon himself. Now, Rocket Raccoon does have some enhanced strength, but it's enhanced for a raccoon. It's just enhanced enough to give him enough to be similar to a normal human, enough to lift some weapons that a raccoon normally wouldn't be able to lift. I don't think he'd be able to lift a 25-pound vibranium arm that effortlessly. To me, this is a clear sign that this is not a full vibranium arm that he is lifting, but an arm made of something much lighter. To me, this is enough to prove that this is just a very well-made replica. So what do you think? Do you think that's enough evidence to show that this is not actually Bucky's arm, but just something that looks very similar given to Rocket Raccoon as a gift? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, give me some thumbs up. And as always, thank you for watching.